Okay, so let's get started with the capítulo preliminar A, que se llama Para empezar. This is basically a review. So the whole chapter we're going to be reviewing concepts that are important to refresh and to have clear in our minds to continue on to the next chapters, in which we're going to be adding on knowledge that you acquired in the elementary courses. So this review is going to be a review of basic concepts, and it's going to help us to reestablish our foundations to continue on. Okay, so we're going to start here with para empezar, and in each chapter you're going to have los objetivos, aquí en azul, y los contenidos. So the objectives are the things that we want to achieve, okay? And contenidos is more like the actual content, the grammar content that we're going to be looking at, okay? So we're going to continue on to the next page. Since this is such a short course, we're not going to, I'm not going to cover the whole page. I may let you do some things on your own, okay? I'm just going to pretty much focus on the grammar points here that are important that you remember, that you know. When we learn new ones, I'm going to focus on those. And then you have activities here, and these activities you can do with each other since you're together in one same place. It would help that you do them together to practice. And some of these you're also going to be doing in My Spanish Lab. Okay, but the first thing that we need to always remember, as you already know, is that in Spanish, nouns and adjectives have not only number but gender. So either they are feminine or they are masculine, okay? So people, places, things, ideas have gender and they have numbers. So they are also going to be singular or plural, okay? Masculine or feminine. So every single noun. All right, so there are some rules to remember if a noun is masculine or feminine, okay? And if the noun does not fit into any of these rules, you just have to memorize them. You just have to learn what they are, okay? Because not all of the nouns fit into one of these rules, okay? So the rules are that most words, and the key word here is most. Most words ending in a are feminine, okay? Most of them. La palabra, la computadora, la casa, la pintura. But there are exceptions, okay? Some exceptions are very, very common words like dia. Dia, we use that word all the time. Mapa. El día, el mapa. Those are words that end in a, but they are masculine. Okay, el día y el mapa. And there are also words that come from the Greek language, and not all the words that end in ma are masculine, but a lot of them are. Okay, a lot of the words that end in ma, we have a few there in the Spanish language, come from the Greek language, and in Greek they are masculine. Okay. So, el problema, it's not la problema, but el problema, el programa, el drama. Okay, those are three of the examples of some words that end in ma and in a, but they are masculine. Okay, most words that end in o are masculine. Most, like libro, el número, el párrafo, el hermano. And some exceptions are la foto, la mano, y la moto. Okay? Now, foto y moto, la foto, la moto, these are shortened versions of the word fotografía. Okay? Fotografía ends in a. Y motocicleta, motocicleta ends in a. So in reality they do end in a, except that these are the short versions. Okay? Photo comes from photography, and moto from motorcycle. Okay, all right. But la mano is another very common word, but it's not masculine; it's feminine. Okay. Now, all the words that end in sion with a C or sion with an S are the equivalent of the English, Sean, S-I-O-N, okay, or T-I-O-N. And every time you see a word that ends in sion, that word is going to be feminine, okay? La televisión, la discusión, la información, la lección. And words ending in dad or tad, okay, the equivalent of the English ty, the ending, are feminine. La ciudad, la libertad, la universidad, y la comunidad. This is very, very, very important that you make sure that you understand, that you know that the gender of nouns, okay? Because it sounds kind of awkward to put the wrong gender in nouns, okay? And sometimes they can mean something different if you change the spelling or if you change the gender of a noun, okay? So it's very important that you understand that all nouns have gender and number, and most important even is that all the words that are going to modify a noun, like adjectives, have to agree in gender and in number, okay? So if you say el día, and you want to say the beautiful day, you're going to say el día bonito, okay? Bonito meaning beautiful, but it has to be in the masculine form, just like the noun that is modified. All right. Muy bien. Vamos a continuar a la página 5. Okay, so we talked about gender, and this is number. Okay, all nouns and adjectives. Okay, we're talking here about nouns, but adjectives, since adjectives modify nouns, they have to agree in gender and in number. But nouns have a number, just like in English. Okay, so if the word ends in a vowel, you're simply going to add s. Casa, casas. Año, años. Pie, pies. Okay? If the word ends in a consonant, you're going to add es. Okay? You cannot add just an s after a consonant. All right? Usted, ustedes. Lección, lecciones. Joven, jóvenes. Okay? It's a little awkward in Spanish to have two consonants together, okay? You can't say ustedes or lecciones, okay? That just doesn't work well in Spanish. So every time you have a word ending in a consonant, you're going to add es instead of just s. And if the word ends in the consonant z, you're going to change the z for a c, and then you're going to add es. Okay, so lápiz, we change it to a C, lápices. Feliz, felices. All right? All right, and then you have some charts here that are called fíjate. Check it out. And I'm going to let you read these, okay, and do your own, draw your own conclusions about what you're reading here. These are things that have to do with the grammar point that we just saw, okay? This one is talking about the accents. Why, for example, here you have lápiz and you keep the accent, but sometimes, okay, like here, you have lección, but when you put it in the plural, you don't use the accent and things like that, okay? So read those charts because they explain things a little better, okay? Muy bien. Okay, then we have los artículos definidos y los artículos indefinidos. This is to convey the, one, or some, okay? Just in English, just like in English, Spanish has two kinds of articles, the definite and the indefinite. The definite article talks about something that is specific, that's why it's called definite. And the indefinite articles talk about, something that is not specific. When you say, I have a sister, or I'm going to study or read a book, you're not talking about a specific book. But if you say I'm going to study the book, you're talking about a specific book, okay? So los artículos definidos in español, in English you just have one, you just have de, and it doesn't matter if the noun is singular or plural, or masculine or feminine. In Spanish, you have to take those four things into consideration, okay? So if it's a male or female, and then male plural, and male singular, okay? So el estudiante if it's one male student, and los estudiantes if they're more than one, male or males and females combined, okay? The masculine form is usually used for the neutral, all right? So if you have a group of men and women, if you want to describe them, if you want to talk about them and say the students, you're going to use the masculine form, okay? Then la estudiante for one female student, and las estudiantes if they're all girls, okay? Y los artículos indefinidos are the ones that talk about a student or some, okay, or one student. Un estudiante, a student or one student, male. Unos estudiantes, some students, either all males or males and females combined. Una estudiante for female, o unas estudiantes, all right? So definite articles are used to refer to the person, place, thing, or idea, okay, something specific. La clase es pequeña este año. The class is small this year. And indefinite articles are used to refer to a or some person, place, thing, or idea, all right? So get some practice about this in my Spanish lab, and practice among yourselves as much as possible, okay? It's very important that the interaction among classmates as well. And if you run across questions, please do not hesitate to ask me, all right? Muy bien. Los adjetivos descriptivos. Muy bien. Los adjetivos descriptivos are adjectives that describe whatever, people, places, and things. And remember that they need to agree in gender and in number with the nouns that they are modifying. Okay, so if you're going to describe a man, okay, el hombre, you're going to say el hombre es alto. Pero si vamos a describir a una mujer, decimos la mujer es alta. Okay, so adjectives have to agree in gender and in number. El hombre es bajo, la mujer es baja. Okay, guapo y guapa. El hombre es guapo, la mujer es guapa. Now, if you want to say that these two are tall, we're going to use the masculine form because that is considered neutral. And but of course, we're going to have to put it in the plural. So we're going to say ellos son altos, altos. Ellos son guapos, guapos. Now, if these two were two men, we would say ellos son altos. But if they were two women, we would say ellas son altas. Okay? Delgado y delgada. Okay? Delgado y delgada. Gordo y gorda. Okay? So the adjectives agree. Débil, él es débil. Ella es débil. Now, if we want to put it in the plural form, remember that if it ends in a consonant, we add es at the end. Débiles. Ellos son débiles. Él es fuerte. Ella es fuerte. Adjectives that end in e, or in a consonant like mayor or joven, they have the same form for masculine and feminine. Él es fuerte. Ella es fuerte. Ellos son fuertes. Ella es inteligente. Él es inteligente. The same adjective for both. Ellos son inteligentes. Joven. Ella es joven. Él es mayor. Joven y mayor. It works for both genders. We could say, if this was a young man, we could say él es joven. Okay, the same adjective. Or if this were an older lady, we would say ella es mayor. Pobre, rico y rica. Okay? Muy bien. All right, so adjectives in Spanish have to agree with the nouns that they modify in number and in gender. So always remember that you have to make them agree with those two things. Okay, Javier es un chico cómico. Isabel es una chica cómica. Javier y Isabel son chicos cómicos. Okay, muy bien. So you can a descriptive adjective can also directly follow the verb ser. Okay. You can say el chico es cómico o Javier es un chico cómico. Okay? Javier es cómico, Isabel es cómica. ¿Sí? Muy bien. Continuamos en la página 8 and do some of these activities. You have some pictures here of different people. Mariano Rivera, Shakira, Juan Carlos Navarro, Leo Mainoldi. These are people that are famous people. Okay, so you can practice how to describe them with different adjectives, taking into consideration the gender and how many people there are. In this case, there's more than one, so you're going to have to use plural adjectives. Okay. Muy bien. Here are some more activities. See? Okay, so this is going to be the end of the uno here, and with the notas culturales, it's interesting to read them out loud, and that is going to give you very good practice for your pronunciation. And whenever you see this icon here, that means that you can click on it and you can listen to the reading, okay? For example. Click on play, I guess.
El español, lengua de millones.
¿Por qué estudiamos español?
Okay, so remember that every time you see this on a page here in your ebook, it means that you can listen to it, all right? And try to read it out loud yourself to practice the pronunciation of your consonants and your vowels. See? Muy bien, so this is the end of día 1. Vamos a continuar ahora al día 2. Muy bien. En el día 2 vamos a ver un poco de repaso de los adjetivos posesivos. Los adjetivos posesivos. These are adjectives that are used to express possession, okay? Like my, your, his, her, its, our, your, and their, okay? In English, okay? So these are adjectives. So every time you have an adjective, possessive or descriptive or anything that is some kind of adjective, adjectives modify nouns. So they are going to have to agree with the nouns, okay? Muy bien. So possessive adjectives, here you have the possessive adjectives. For my, you have me or mis. For your, the informal, you have tú or tus. For your, the formal, for usted, you have su and sus. And notice that for his and her and its, it's the same, su and sus, okay? For our and for your, the vosotros form, which is only used in Spain, that's why I don't place a whole lot of emphasis on the vosotros form. But for our, notice here the only thing that you have to worry about is number, okay? Here with nuestro and vuestro, it's not only number but also gender. Nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, nuestras. Vuestro, vuestra, vuestros, and vuestras. This is the your, for the vosotros form, and I really don't want to put a whole lot of emphasis on here on the vosotros form. So I'm not when we work with verbs, we're not going to use the vosotros form. You just need to know that that form is used in Spain only. You're not going to hear it in any other place in the Spanish-speaking world. Okay, for your, the plural is going to be su or sus. For ustedes, okay, this is the ustedes form that is used in Latin America. And for their, su or sus. So in the majority, all you have to worry about is number, except for the nuestro, for our. That's when you have to also think about gender, okay? Now, possessive adjectives agree in form with the person or place or thing possessed, okay? Not with the possessor, which means this could be a little confusing, okay? So you have to understand who is possessing. So if it's I, okay, you're going to use one of these, me or mis, because you are the one possessing, okay? But how do you decide if you use the singular or the plural? It's because of what it is that you are possessing, okay? So if you possess something that is singular, you're going to use me. For example, mi hermano. But if you have more than one brother or siblings, you're going to say mis hermanos. Okay? The same thing with tú. Okay? If you're talking to a person and you're saying your brother or your sister or your cousin or whatever, you have to take into consideration what it is that this person is possessing. So if you're talking to you, to tú, you're going to use tú if it's one, tu primo, or tus primos. Okay? Now, su, for your formal, for the usted form. Su abuelo, if it's one. Okay, if I'm talking to, for example, a person that I want to show respect for because it's an older person, I'm going to say su abuelo. Este es su abuelo, okay? Or if it's more than one, I'm going to say sus abuelos, all right? The same thing with he and she and it, okay? Él and ella, okay? If I'm talking about her aunt, I'm going to say su tía. But if it's more than one, I'm going to say sus tías, okay? Now with nuestro, you have to take into consideration if it's what is possessed is singular or plural and masculine or feminine, okay? So nuestra familia, our family, or nuestras familias, our families, okay? What is being possessed is plural. Or we can say nuestro hermano, our brother, or nuestros hermanos, our brothers. Okay? Muy bien. With vuestro, don't worry about the vosotros form, okay? And then for your, like you all, the plural, okay? Su hermana or sus hermanas. And su hija y sus hijas for their, okay? So you have a lot of repetition here for your, the formal, for usted, for él and ella, for you all, for ustedes, and for ellos and ellas, okay? Su and sus and su and sus, okay? So by the context, you know which one you're talking about, okay? Okay, so in Spanish we can also show possession expressing the equivalent of the English of mine, for example, or mine. Of mine, of yours, of his, of hers, of ours, of theirs, okay? So these are the possessive adjectives that would be the equivalent of mine, yours, his, hers, okay? Singular, plural, masculino, femenino, okay? So we have four forms for each person. For yo, we're going to have mío, mía for feminine, míos for masculine plural, and mías for feminine plural, okay? For yours, the familiar, for tú, tuyo, tuya, tuyos, tuyas, okay? Suyo, suya, suyos, and suyas. The same thing with his and hers. Nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, and nuestras. Okay, suyo, suya, sus. Notice that all the ones that were the same up here are the same down here too. Okay, suyo, 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 suyo. Okay, muy bien. Okay, so here are some examples. You can say, mi refrigerador funciona bien. Mi refrigerador funciona bien. My refrigerator. Or you can say the refrigerator of mine, okay? El refrigerador mío funciona bien. And also mío can, if you already know what you're talking about, you don't have to repeat the word refrigerador. You can say, el mío funciona bien. You know, mine works well, okay? Nuestros sofás cuestan mucho. This is our sofas, or the sofas of ours, okay? Los sofás nuestros, and in this case, nuestros and nuestros, we use the same one, cuestan mucho. Or los nuestros cuestan mucho, when everybody in the conversation knows what you're talking about and you don't have to repeat the noun. Los nuestros cuestan mucho. ¿Cuánto cuestan tus lámparas? ¿Cuánto cuestan las lámparas tuyas? ¿Y cuánto cuestan las tuyas? Sus muebles son caros. Los muebles suyos son caros. Los suyos son caros. So in this case, sus, we don't know if you're talking about he or she or you formal or they, but by the context, you're going to know. In this case, we don't have any context, so this is just an example to show how they change if you use them with the adjective, with the noun, or without. Okay? Okay, so the third person forms suyos, suyas, suyos, and suyas can have more than one meaning, like I just said. To avoid the confusion, you can use the article plus the noun plus the and plus the subject pronoun. That is to say, the person who is possessing. For example, el coche suyo, like here, los muebles suyos, you don't know what person you're talking about. So to clarify, if you need to clarify, you can say el coche de él, o el coche de ella, o el coche de usted, o el coche de ellos, to be a little more clear. If using the possessive adjective does not clarify enough. Okay? Muy bien. Here you have pictures of different families, okay, that you can practice describing using possessive adjectives, okay? Por ejemplo, ella es, I don't know, María. Su esposo se llama José, okay? La hija de él, o su hija, and different things like that. And you can also practice with a picture of your own family, talk to one another and describe your own families, and use as many of the possessive adjectives as you can, not about just yourself, but about the different people in your family. You can say, you know, their, her, his, ours, to practice with all of them. Okay? Muy bien. The present, el presente indicativo de los verbos regulares. Okay? To talk about daily activities, we use the simple present, which is called presente indicativo in Español. Okay? As you remember, in Spanish, we have three groups of verbs that are categorized by the ending of the infinitive. In Spanish, infinitives are only one word. In English, they are two words. It's to plus the verb. To dance, to sing, to cook, to buy. In Spanish, infinitives are only one word. And infinitives are going to end in either ar or er, ar, or ir. Okay? Those are the three endings that infinitives can have. Okay? So, for the verbs that end in ar, here are some examples. Bailar, cantar, cocinar, and these are they are all can't talk. They're all regular. Okay, so regular means that they are all going to be conjugated in the same way. They're going to follow a pattern. Okay. Bailar, cantar, cocinar, comprar, contestar, enseñar, esperar, estudiar, hablar, llegar, necesitar, preparar, preguntar, regresar, terminar, tomar, trabajar y usar. Okay, these are all regular. And the majority of verbs in Spanish are verbs that end in ar. Okay? Here are some that end in er, and these are regular as well. Aprender, beber, comer, comprender, correr, creer, beber y leer. ¿Ok? En los verbos que terminan en ir. Abrir, compartir, describir, escribir, recibir y vivir. ¿Ok? So we use this tense to express ongoing activities or actions. ¿Ok? We use the present indicative. Okay, for example, Cisco lee en la biblioteca. Cisco reads in the library. Or it can also mean Cisco is reading in the library. Sometimes we use the presente indicativo to convey the ongoing activity. Sometimes. And you can also use a present indicative to express something that's going to happen in the future. For example, you can say, Mario is coming back tomorrow. Mario regresa mañana. Okay? Okay, muy bien. All right. To form the present indicative form, we're going to drop the ending ad or er or ir. We drop it. We keep the root of the verb, and we add an ending that is going to be the same ending for all regular verbs. For hablar, all the regular verbs that end in ar, we're going to drop the ending, and for yo is going to be hablo. For tú, hablas. Usted and él and ella are always going to conjugate the same way. Habla and habla. Nosotros hablamos, o nosotras hablamos. Vosotros, don't worry about it. Ustedes, ellos y ellas hablan. Hablan. That's for the adverbs. For the adverbs, the yo form is always going to be o. Okay, yo como. But here's going to be different. Instead of as, tú hablas, going to be es. Tú comes. And the same thing with verbs that end in ir. Comes y vives. Usted habla, usted come, usted vive. See, the er and ir conjugate the same. Él and ella come y vive. The same way. Now here is where the difference comes in the nosotros form. Nosotros o nosotras comemos with er verbs and vivimos with ir forms. Okay, with verbs that end in ir is going to be imos, and here is going to be hemos. But the rest are the same in both kinds of verbs. Ustedes comen y viven, y ellos y ellas comen y viven. Okay, we need to review, practice using these verbs in the activities that follow here whenever my computer decides. Okay, so you have activities, and some of these are going to be in Spanish Lab, not all of them. Okay, so whenever you get a chance, please try to practice with your classmates. Okay, for example, activities like this one, you have pronombre, and you can use any pronoun you want. You can even use names or some other kind of subject. La actividad y el lugar. So you can put together sentences. For example, here you have the pronoun nosotros. Ver una película, the verb is not conjugated. Y el cine. Nosotros vemos una película en el cine. Okay, so try to make sentences with these three different parts of speech. Okay. Muy bien, y para lo último para el día 2, okay, we're going to finish day 2 with algunos verbos irregulares. Verbos irregulares are the verbs that do not follow the same pattern as regular verbs in the present indicative, okay? Here are some of the most common irregular verbs that we have learned so far. And these are verbs that, since they don't follow a pattern, we just have to learn how they work, okay? And we try to put them in groups that make sense, but bottom line is that you need to just learn them, okay? The first group here are verbs that are irregular only in the yo form, okay? In the yo form, okay? The rest of the persons conjugate in the regular way that we just learned before, okay? So, dar, conocer, estar, y hacer, y poner, okay, are verbs that are irregular only in the yo form. Yo doy, yo conozco, yo estoy, yo hago, y yo pongo. Okay, the rest of the persons, if you notice, are going to be conjugated in the regular way. Okay. So we put these verbs together because the only irregularity that they have is in the yo form, okay? Okay, muy bien. And the same thing, well, here with salir, traer, ver, ir y ser. Salir y traer, okay, y ver, okay, they have irregularities in the first, in the yo form. Yo salgo, yo traigo, y yo veo, okay? And then the other persons, all right, are conjugated in the regular way. In the regular. Now, ir y ser are very, very, very irregular, because not only are they irregular in the yo form, But for example, ir, it changes completely when you conjugate it. You know, the infinitive ir is gone, and you have to change it completely. Yo voy, tú vas, él va, okay? But the endings are regular of these other persons, okay? Except for the yo form, which doesn't have the regular ending. All the others are regular. And then ser also, yo soy, but then it changes. It's completely different from the infinitive. Yo soy, tú eres, él es, somos, sois. Very irregular. Very irregular. Okay? Muy bien. And these are verbs that are very common. We use the verb to be all the time and to go all the time. So it's very important that you review them. Okay? Muy bien. Okay, so these are other irregular verbs that have irregularities in all of the persons. Okay, decir, oír, venir, y tener. Okay, notice how irregulars. In this case, the yo form is very irregular. Okay, yo digo, yo oigo, yo vengo, y yo tengo. Okay, now with decir, in the rest of the persons, except for nosotros, nosotros and vosotros are always going to be regular. Always. They're going to conjugate in the regular form, in the present tense, of course. Okay, so nosotros is never going to conjugate in any irregular form. Okay, but notice that the e in the root changes to e. Decir, tú dices, usted, él, ella dice. Nosotros is going to stay regular. Ustedes, ellos, y ellas dicen. Okay? Now, with oír, the e, well, this is going to be a very, very big change because instead of the I, we're going to use the Y, okay? Tú oyes, él oye, usted oye, ella oye. Nosotros is going to be regular, vosotros too. Ustedes oyen, ellos oyen, okay? The endings of these persons from two down to here is regular, but what is irregular is the root, the changes that happen in the roots, okay? The same thing with venir. The e in venir, in the infinitive, is going to change to ie, okay? Entonces, tú vienes, usted, él, ella viene. Nosotros is going to stay regular. Ustedes, ellos, y ellas vienen. Okay, see, the endings are regular, but the change happens in the root. And tener, the same thing. The e in tener, the first e in tener is going to change to ie. Tienes, tiene, tiene, tienen, y tienen. Okay? Muy bien. Okay, so there's a lot there to review with the verbs. Okay? Muy bien, vamos a continuar la página 16, and you have activities here that you can do in written form. It helps quite a bit to write down these activities. There's a strong connection between your brain and your eyes and your hand. That when you handwrite something, it helps to stay in your brain longer than if you just type it or if you just say it orally. Okay? Muy bien. Okay, so you have different activities here. We have questions you can answer, and some of these are going to be in my Spanish lab. All right, so this is going to be the end of el día 2. Entonces, aquí tenemos perfiles y pueden escuchar el audio, ¿ok? De los perfiles, ¿ok? Hay muchas personas que hablan español en el mundo. Aquí hay algunos entre los millones que hablan español. Okay, so here are some people that speak Spanish. La actriz América Ferrera, ¿cómo se llama? Sonia Sotomayor, la primera jueza hispana, Ricky Martin, Santiago Calatrava. Okay, so this is it is useful for you to, well, for number one, to learn more about the culture, about people who are Spanish speakers that are famous, and for you to practice your pronunciation when you read out loud. And of course, here are some some questions that you can answer as well. Okay, so this would be the end of día 2. Día Día 3, perdón. Ok. Pasamos al día 4. Para el día 4. Jueves. Los verbos con cambio de raíz. Okay. So here we have more irregular verbs. More irregular verbs. And these are verbs that are called stem changing verbs because the change happens in the root. And we put them together in groups like we did in the previous section, except that these are let's see, there are a lot of verbs that change the e to the ie in the root, so we put them all together because it helps to learn them all together as one. Okay. Por ejemplo, el verbo cerrar, the e in cerrar changes to ie. The ending you don't have to worry about because the ending is regular. What is irregular, what makes them irregular is that the root changes, that there are changes in the root. Okay. So the E is going to become IE. Yo cierro, tú cierras, usted, él y ella cierra, nosotros cerramos, y nosotros is always regular, okay, never changes. Ustedes, ellos y ellas cierran. And just like cerrar, if you know how to conjugate cerrar, all these other verbs conjugate the same way, okay. The E in the root is going to change to IE, okay. If there are two E's in the verb, like preferir, perder, in the root, not perder, preferir, entender, okay? It's the second one. It's the E that is closest to the ending, okay? All right, so comenzar, you would conjugate yo comienzo, tú comienzas, él comienza, usted, él, ella comienza, nosotros comenzamos, nosotros is not going to be irregular, ustedes, ellos y ellas comienzan. And the same thing with all these other verbs. All these other verbs belong to the same group, okay? Empezar, yo empiezo, tú empiezas, etc. Entender, mentir, recomendar, pensar, perder, preferir, y querer. So that one group, if you know how to conjugate one, you know how to conjugate all of the others, okay? Now we have another group of verbs that change from E in the root to I, like pedir. Yo pido, okay? The E changes to I. Yo pido, tú pides, usted, él, ella pide, nosotros pedimos, nosotros is not going to change, ustedes, ellos y ellas piden. And other verbs that work exactly the same way are repetir, and of course here are two E's, so the second E is the one that is going to change. Yo repito, tú repites, él repite. Seguir and servir, okay? Muy bien, so these three conjugate exactly the same way. Now we have verbs that change from O to ue. O to ue. For example, encontrar. Encontrar. Yo encuentro, tú encuentras, usted, él, ella encuentra, nosotros encontramos, nosotros is going to stay regular, ustedes, ellos y ellas encuentran. ¿Sí? And one more. Oh, and of course here are the verbs that work exactly like encontrar. The O changes to ue. Almorzar, costar, dormir, mostrar, morir, poder, recordar, y volver. Okay? And another common stem changing verb that we learned before is jugar. Jugar, which means to play, but to play a sport or a game, not to play an instrument, okay? To play. So jugar. The U changes to ue. Yo juego, tú juegas, usted, él, ella juega, nosotros stays the same, ustedes, ellos y ellas juegan. Okay? Muy bien. So here are some sections. You will find sections that are called explícalo tú. Meaning you explain it, okay, to summarize. So these are questions that the book asks you for you to respond and see if you have understood what the concept is, okay. Muy bien. So here are some activities that you have to practice the stem changing verbs, okay. And this book has a lot of interactive activities. When you see the two little people here, means that you can do that with a partner, and it would be great if you could all do these things together to practice more. Okay. Muy bien. Okay, so las construcciones reflexivas. Okay, and you know that in Spanish we have verbs that are called reflexive verbs, which you don't have in English as much as we do in Spanish. In English, it would be sometimes the equivalent of myself, yourself. Okay, when the action of the verb, the person that performs the verb and receives the action of the verb are the same. So a reflexive verb and pronoun are used. Okay, for example, when you talk about daily routines, when you get up in the morning, a lot of these verbs are reflexive. Okay, and if you look them up in the dictionaries, they're in the dictionary. They're going to be in this form: acostarse. Okay, with the pronoun se at the end. Okay, afeitarse, bañarse, cepillarse los dientes, and these are verbs that we use in English, but we do not consider them reflexive. Okay, we say I go to bed. You don't say I put myself in bed. Okay, but in Spanish that's what we're saying. Or shave. He shaves. We don't say he shaves himself, but in Spanish we do. Okay, or bañarse, take a bath or take a shower. You say I'm going to take a shower. In Spanish we use the reflexive form, which what we're saying is I shower myself. Or cepillarse los dientes, brush your teeth, or go to sleep, or take a shower, or get dressed, or get dry, or comb your hair, or put on makeup, wake up. And these are all verbs that are reflexive, meaning that the person who is doing the action is also receiving the action. And sometimes it's not as clear as that, but these are verbs that you're going to have to learn that they are reflexive. Okay. Okay, so when you see a verb that in the infinitive ends with se, bañarse, cepillarse, dormirse, ducharse, you know that they are reflexive. So when you conjugate them, you have to know what the reflexive pronouns are, depending on what person is doing the action. If yo is the one doing the action, I is going to be me. And divertirse means to enjoy, okay? I always enjoy myself at parties. We usually don't say it that way. We say we have fun. I always have fun at a party. Okay, that's what me divierto means. Me divierto. Okay, so divertirse would be the infinitive, but when you conjugate the verb, you're going to say me divierto. Or let's use one here. Cepillarse los dientes. O dormir. Or let's see, yeah, cepillarse los dientes. Cepillarse. You're going to say yo me cepillo los dientes. Tú te cepillas los dientes. Okay. Usted se divierte. Usted, él, and ella have the same. Se, and ustedes, ellos, y ellas as well. Okay. And nosotros nos divertimos. Okay. So these are the reflexive pronouns that you need to know when you're going to conjugate a reflexive verb. Okay. Now, reflexive pronouns can precede a conjugated verb. For example, here you say me voy a levantar when you're talking about the future. I'm going to get up. Okay. So voy is the verb that is conjugated. So you can put the reflexive pronoun before a verb that is conjugated. Me voy a levantar. Or here levantar is the infinitive. You can attach the pronoun to the infinitive. Okay, so you can either say me voy a levantar or voy a levantarme. But you're not going to put me in the same sentence twice. Okay, you're not going to say me voy a levantarme. All right. You're either going to say me voy a levantar or voy a levantarme. It's attached when it's attached to an infinitive. Okay? All right. Or a present participle. A present participle is a verb that ends in ando or yendo. Ando or yendo. Okay, so For example here, se van a levantar esta mañana. Se van a levantar esta mañana. Okay, van is the conjugated verb. So you either put it before the conjugated verb, se van a levantar esta mañana, or you're going to attach it to the infinitive. Van a levantarse esta mañana. And here with the present participle, nos estamos levantando. Estamos levantando. Estamos is a verb that is conjugated, so you put it before. In levantando is a present participle that ends in ando. So you can say estamos levantándonos. Levantándonos. You attach it to an infinitive or to a present participle, or you put it in front of the verb that is conjugated, but not both in the same sentence. ¿Sí? Muy bien. Vamos a ver. ¿Qué más hay? Okay, so here are some of the verbs that are reflexive. Okay? And you have some in that picture, okay? Acordarse de, to remember something, to remember that you had to go to the bank, okay? Acordarse de. Callarse, to become quiet or to keep quiet, callarse. Divertirse, this means that the e in the root becomes an ie, okay? To enjoy oneself. Divertirse. Yo me divierto, tú te diviertes, etc. To have fun. Irse, to go away or to leave. Yo me voy, tú te vas, él se va. Lavarse, to wash oneself. Levantarse, to get up or to stand up. Llamarse, to be called or to be named. You say yo me llamo, ¿cómo te llamas? Él se llama, okay? Ponerse, por ejemplo, la ropa, to put on one's clothes, okay? Ponerse la ropa. Ponerse nervioso, to become nervous. Yo me pongo nerviosa en un examen. Quedarse, to stay or to remain. Tú te quedas en tu casa. Quitarse, por ejemplo, la ropa, to take off, for example, one's clothes, or like you could say take off the makeup, for example. Reunirse, to get together, to meet. You say nos reunimos mañana a las 10. Sentarse, that means that the e here is going to change to ie. Yo me siento, tú te sientas, to sit down. Y sentirse, to feel. Me siento cansado, te sientes feliz, etc. Okay? Muy bien. Make sure you read the fíjate and the estrategia sections because they explain some of the technical things of how these verbs work. Okay? Muy bien. So here you have your activities that you need to do this day, and I'm going to include a voice thread in this day that you can participate in. That is going to it's going to be something like this. You're going to have pictures of daily activities or routines, and you're going to have to describe what you see and talk about a little bit about your daily activity, what you do, and maybe ask questions to your classmates and why not to your teacher. I would like to participate too. Okay? Muy bien. So this is the end of el día 4. Y tenemos un día más. Un día más. Okay. So we're going to start with the last section of this chapter. This should be done on Friday. Okay. It's going to be a review of ser y estar, okay? Los verbos ser y estar. Ambos significan to be, okay? They both mean to be. These ser and estar are called twin verbs because they mean the same, okay? But they're not interchangeable, okay? We have to know when to use one and when to use the other, all right? In English, you have several twin verbs. One of them is, for example, to do and to make. In Spanish, we don't have two verbs to express do and make. We only have one, which is hacer, or to look and to see. Okay, those are twin verbs in English that we don't have in Spanish. But in Spanish, we do have this one, ser y estar. Okay, So, when do we use ser? Okay, ser, this is the conjugation. Yo soy, tú eres, él es, él, ella y usted es. Nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ellos, ellas y usted son. Okay, so ser we use to describe physical or personality traits that remain relatively constant. Okay, when you're describing someone, what that person is looks like physically, or a personality trait that is something that describes a person, we use ser. For example, Guillermo es inteligente. Es inteligente. O las casas son pequeñas. Okay, to describe people or things or places. To explain who or what someone or something is. For example, your profession or a family relation. Okay. La doctora García es profesora de literatura. Mary es mi hermana. Okay, when you identify somebody through a family relation or a profession, or what someone or something is. Okay, to tell time, every time you tell time or when or where an event takes place. Okay, for example, ¿qué hora es? Son las 9. Mi clase de español es a las 8 y es en Peabody Hall. Okay, when an event takes place and where. Okay, muy bien. And then to tell where someone is from or to express nationality. Somos de Cuba. Okay, ¿de dónde? De Cuba. Somos cubanos. Okay, nationality. Okay, so that's basically when you said. Estar we're going to use when we describe physical or personality traits that can change or that indicate a change in condition. For example, Elena está enferma hoy. Okay, Elena is sick today. She's not always sick. She's sick today. That is going to change. O Leo y Ligia están cansados. Cansado. They're tired. Okay, that is not a permanent trait. That's something that is happening at the moment. Okay. Now, every time you talk about location of people or places, with the exception of event, where an event takes place. When you're talking about, for example, the party is at my house, you're going to say, you're going to use said. But when you talk about location of people or places, for example, the movie theater is on 8th Street. El cine está. Every time you talk about location, we use estar, okay? Estamos en el restaurante. ¿Dónde estás tú? O, por ejemplo, España está en Europa. Okay? So, location is, to talk about location, we use estar. And also with the present participle to create the present progressive. To talk about something that is in progress. Okay? They are dancing a lot. Están bailando mucho. O estamos esperándola. We're waiting for her. Okay? Muy bien. So here is the explícalo tú, all right, section that I'm going to leave up to you. See? Muy bien. Some activities to review ser and estar. Okay? Y lo último, vamos a hacer el verbo gustar. To talk about what you like and what you dislike. Okay? The verb gustar is used to express likes and dislikes. Gustar works differently from other verbs that you know. Okay, the person or the thing or the idea that is liked is actually the subject of the sentence. Okay, it's not like in English. You say I like this dress. Okay, so I is the subject. Like is the verb and the dress is the object of the verb. In Spanish, that is not, I like, me gusta is not a literal translation of I like, okay? What you're actually saying is that something, whatever it is that you like, is pleasing to you, okay? If I say I like hamburgers, when you say me gustan las hamburguesas, what you're saying literally, grammatically speaking, is hamburgers are pleasing to me. Okay, that's exactly what you're saying. Okay, so the whatever it is that is liked is the subject. And the person or person who likes another person or thing or idea is the indirect object. So it's the opposite of what happens in English. So here, for example, you say, me gusta la playa. What you're saying is that the beach is pleasing to me. Okay? So, me gusta la playa. Te gusta. And so we're going to use different object pronouns. Okay? Me gusta, te gusta for you. Le gusta for usted, él y ella. Le gusta la playa. Le gusta la playa. Le gusta la playa. Nos gusta la playa. Os gusta la playa. Y les gusta la playa. Okay? Muy bien. All right. So the construction a, like here, plus the pronoun a mí, a ti, a él, etc. Or a plus a noun is optional, okay, most of the time. It is used mainly for clarification or emphasis. You can say, me gusta la playa, or if you want to clarify that you're talking about yourself or you want to emphasize, you can say, a mí me gusta la playa. No a ti, a mí me gusta la playa. So you're clarifying or you're emphasizing, okay? The clarification of le gusta and les gusta is especially important because the indirect object pronoun le and les can refer to different people. Okay, here you can use le for usted, le for él, le for ella. So in this case, and the same here, ustedes les gusta o ellos y ellas les gusta. It might be important to use a él le gusta or a Ana le gusta because we don't know if we don't know who you're talking about, because it could be usted, it could be él, it could be ella, okay? So it may be important in this case to clarify with a plus a pronoun, a él o a ella o a mí o a ti o a ustedes, okay? Muy bien. Now, we use the plural gustan when whatever is liked is plural. If you say instead of la playa, you say, for example, me gusta el traje, it's one suit. But if you say, I like the suits, you're going to say, me gustan los trajes. Because remember that whatever is liked is the subject. So the verb has to agree with the subject, okay? Me gustan los trajes. Me gustan los trajes. All right, so to express the idea that one likes to do something, because you can also say, I like to sing, or she likes to play the piano, all right? Gustar is going to be followed by the infinitive form of the verb, okay? So in that case, you always use the singular gusta. It doesn't matter if you are going to say, I like to sing, play the piano, and play the guitar. You're always going to use the singular, okay? Me gusta cantar, tocar la guitarra y tocar el piano, all right? Me gusta ir de compras por la noche. So see, you use the infinitive. A Juan le gusta ir de compras y salir con sus amigos, all right? So you can talk about liking something or somebody or a place or whatever, or liking an activity, okay? Muy bien. All right, so that's the end of this week. You're not going to have a quiz this week, but you do have this reading here, and again, you can listen to it and you can read it out loud to practice. And there's going to be a discussion. There is a discussion in open class to talk about los hispanos en los Estados Unidos, about your experience, and there are some questions there you can answer, and we can engage in a discussion in written form in Spanish, of course. Okay, so muy bien. Hasta aquí llegamos. Si tienen preguntas, por favor, me preguntan, okay? Send me your questions, please. Do not keep your doubts or your questions. Ask me anything that you want to ask, and I will do the best I can to explain to you, okay? Muy bien. I hope you have had a great week, and we will continue next week, la semana que viene. Adiós. Hasta luego.